Mikkel Thorup here from the Expat Money Show, and today I am joined by my very good friend Marco Wutzer, and today we're going to be discussing DeFi. So, Marco, welcome to the show, and what is DeFi?
Thanks for having me here. So DeFi, what does it even mean? DeFi stands for decentralized finance. So the way you have to look at it is, on one hand, we have the old system, the legacy system, where it's all problematic with it's so complicated these days just to open a bank account anywhere, especially if you do business internationally. It's a complete nightmare. So it's bureaucratic, you have the middlemen that extract their values, all the fees and everything. The transactions are slow. You can get kicked off at any time. So how does that compare to DeFi, to the new financial system? Well, DeFi, as the name says, it's decentralized, meaning it's permissionless. You can just do it. You don't need to ask a bank for permission and supply a whole bunch of paperwork. You can just use it. So it is permissionless. It's censorship resistant. Nobody can mess with your financial life in that sense. And of course, it's also much cheaper and much faster. That's the core benefits if I compare it from a fundamental viewpoint, the old system and the new system. But what is also important in DeFi is you have all the products that you have in the legacy financial system. Like, what does it actually consist of? Yeah, you have loans, you have stocks, you have mortgages, you have credit scores, you have checking accounts, you have different investment products. So all these things are now being rebuilt in a decentralized, permissionless manner on the blockchain. And this now becomes also modular. So you can just take the different pieces and mix them together to create a new financial product or a new financial system. So it's a very exciting, fast-growing space.
So I work a lot with offshore bank accounts. I try to help Americans with banking offshore. It is becoming more and more difficult as time progresses for Americans to bank or do finance overseas. So I think that this is actually a viable solution for a lot of people. Have you seen the same type of thing? A lot of Americans coming over and looking for alternatives?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I have clients from all over the world. So it's there's high interest from any area. And it's just like you help Americans go offshore. I mean, I'm originally from Europe and I went offshore a long time ago. And I still remember the days when you just emailed just a copy, a photo of your passport. Yeah. 10 minutes later, your bank account was open. These days are long gone. So now, if you have to run a business today, you spend more than half your time just with bureaucratic nonsense and just dealing with random shit instead of building actually the business. So this is now changing again. We're still not quite there yet where it has broad enough mass adoption to be standard and where everybody interacts with this easily, but we're more and more getting there. For me, when we get to the top of this crypto cycle, I don't plan to send the majority of my money back into the legacy financial system. Sure, you buy a property here or there, or you might buy a car or whatever you want to buy. You need some money in the old system, right? But in general, I can get a higher yield in DeFi than I can in the legacy banking system. I can have interesting investment opportunities, often much more lucrative than what you have in the legacy financial system. So I plan on just staying in the blockchain ecosystem, and over time it will just get better and more attractive.
Well, we were having dinner the other night, and I asked you, okay, once we hit the mania phase in this industry and we want to cash out the fund and our investments and things like that, are you going to be going back to stablecoin? And your answer was very, very interesting.
Yeah, so of course, you want to at the peak of the cycle switch from the volatile growth assets that you then made all your money on to a more stable unit of account. Now, in the past, this has always been the dollar, but now the dollar, you can't even call it stable anymore with something like 40% of all dollars being printed last year. I mean,
correct.
This is like Argentina or Brazil level inflation. It's just ridiculous. You can call it anything but stable. And also, when you want to be within the blockchain ecosystem, or rather stay within it, you don't want to have this umbilical cord back to the legacy financial system, because if I sell back to a stable coin, in the end, it's still just US dollars sitting in some bank account. It's not your bank account, it's just somebody else's bank account, but it's still dollars in a bank account. And now, one of the fastest, most exciting growing spaces in DeFi is the crypto native stablecoin. So that's a mouthful, and that means basically that you have a stable unit of account, a stable asset that you can put your capital in, but it's backed by assets from within the blockchain ecosystem, so it no longer has this link to the old system, so you can protect your gains, but it's still in a completely decentralized and permissionless manner.
Well, it's amazing, because every time I talk to you, there is something new that I hadn't thought of. I had you on the podcast maybe 6 months ago, and you explained NFTs to me, and really how that was going to completely change the world. And now stablecoins, but stable coins that are in crypto, I mean, my head just exploded again because it's just not something that just occurred to me on first look at all of these types of things.
Yeah, so if you look at that space for a new kind of money, a crypto native money, what does it have to be? Well, of course, it needs the transaction capacity to transact thousands of transactions if a lot of people want to use it. Then it needs to have a really short time to finality. So in other words, if you're like standing in line buying a coffee, you cannot wait 10 minutes for the transactions to confirm. It has to be like that, right? So that's also one of the main reasons why Bitcoin will never be money. Bitcoin is great for storing your wealth over long periods of time, for bigger amounts of money, but you're not going to buy a coffee with Bitcoin. So it needs to be fast. And then the other thing is also, of course, the fees. You can't pay like $3 in transaction fees if you buy a coffee. It has to be like a penny or a fraction of a penny, something like that. So, and then, of course, the other aspect we just touched upon, it needs to be a stable unit of account that doesn't fluctuate too much. Otherwise, it's not good as money. So once we have all these characteristics in a new coin, if you invest in that early, you'll become very, very rich.
Okay, so I guess the follow-up question to this is, do you have any fear of the government stepping in? I know this is the number one thing that people always want to know. Is the government going to come in and kill Bitcoin? Are they going to kill the altcoins? Are they going to kill the whole market? Are they going to be able to kill these type of stablecoins?
Yeah, I mean, this is a recurring topic since like I'm 11 years now in the market. I've been hearing it for 11 years, and Bitcoin has, China has banned Bitcoin now, 17 times or something like that. It's
legitimately,
it's ridiculous, right? And so if we look at it historically in the past, when the whole crypto space was very small, that was a legitimate concern. Now it's like 2 billion in assets and it's growing at the top of the cycle. Maybe we see, not billion. Trillion, 2 trillion
with a T, yeah.
At the top of the cycle, we'll maybe get to 10 trillion. So it's really, really big, way too big for any individual entity, no matter how big, even a government, to stamp it out. So that doesn't mean a government cannot interfere. So of course they can, and we're seeing this in many places. So you just have like a two-tier society, a crypto-friendly one and a not so crypto-friendly one, and the crypto-friendly one will just be much more dynamic, much more rich, develop much more, attract more talent, more brain power. And so in terms of interference from a government, of course, if it's a large enough global event, let's say, it can be a speed bump in the development, but that's the beauty of the blockchain ecosystem. It's decentralized and permissionless, so nobody can really interfere with it. And of course, governments have their limited reach of power, so locally within their borders, they can of course interfere significantly. So it's a problem regionally for individual countries. They can of course really fall behind and struggle for a while until we get to a point where it's so big that there's simply no other option. But a global threat to the blockchain ecosystem in general is not going to happen.
Okay. So then what would be some risks that people should be aware of if they want to participate in DeFi?
Yeah, so the very biggest risk is you yourself. Because on the one hand, you have sovereignty with your money, like an incredibly valuable property to have. It's actually what we desperately need in this world. But the other side of that coin, the flip side of it, is that you are now responsible for your money. If you screw up, there is no customer support line you can call and say, hey, what do I do now? I lost my key. Like, if you do that, your money is gone.
Yep.
So number one thing is you got to have backups, multiple backups. And then if you screw up, nothing happened. You just use the backup and you're all good. So you are responsible for the money, and that's the price you have to pay to become sovereign with your money.
Okay. Now, what about these yield farmings and the things that we're seeing in this space and people getting insane rates of return? Are there anything that people should be worried about? Is this, free for all? Just throw all your money in? What's your opinion on this?
Well, there's a lot of opportunity with what's called yield farming, where you get very high percentage returns for supplying capital to different platforms, money markets, and so on. But there's also different layers of risk, especially smart contract risk. And what that basically means is there can be a bug in the code somewhere. And then if there is one in there, it's just a matter of time until it's exploited. And we see a lot of these exploits, some of them hundreds of millions of dollars worth, where the money is then basically gone. So again, we come back to specialization. I like to invest in the projects at the blockchain and protocol layer or level. It's very, very safe. And even there, you can generate significant yield, double-digit yield, while you hold these assets that grow many times over. You're still getting a yield on top of it. Now, if you really know what you're doing, there's a lot of opportunity in the yield farming space or crypto in general. But of course, you really got to know what you're doing, and you have to do it just like I do with my projects. You have to do it in a diversified way that if one of them goes bad or two of them goes bad, then you're still covered by the other returns that you're having.
Well, and we did another video on your T4 method. So I assume that you use a lot of this T4 method when choosing these types of DeFi projects as well.
Yeah, I mean, what I look at is DeFi projects at the protocol level and blockchains and certain other like core technologies of the blockchain ecosystem, and all of them, they go through my T4 method to screen them for quality.
Okay, amazing. So if you guys want to find out more about Marco's work, if you want to find out more about the T4 method or the DeFi projects that he likes to invest in, there's going to be a link below this video. Otherwise, you can go to expatmoneyshow.com/serenity and sign up for his newsletter there. I am a subscriber myself. I'm a big fan of your work. So thank you for all you do, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Until next time.